The millionaire laughed when she said, "It's by faith, not love." She was a virgin and only agreed to marry through a spiritual vow. But at the altar, a letter from her father fell to the floor. And what he read made his face turn pale, on the spot. If you like these soul stories, don't forget to leave a like. This helps me to continue bringing more. The winter sun gently warmed the cobblestone streets of Paraty. Selina Allard walked lightly along the shore, watching the calm waters meet the blue sky. At 28, she was known in the small historic city on the coast of Rio de Janeiro for her dedication to the municipal school where she taught arts and literature. The students adored her, not only for her creativity in class, but for the way she transmitted values and teachings that went beyond books. The daughter of Aaron and Beatrice Allard, Selina had been raised in a home where love transcended the material. Her father, a poet and teacher, had always taught her that true relationships needed deep spiritual foundations. Before he left this world 3 years ago, he had reinforced these teachings, asking Selina to never settle for less than genuine, transformative love. While contemplating the horizon, Selina was interrupted by the ringing of her cell phone. It was Mariana Costa, her best friend since childhood. "You won't believe it, Ceci. The Casa da Cultura has secured sponsorship for the Winter Festival. A businessman from São Paulo is going to finance the entire event," exclaimed Mariana enthusiastically. "That's wonderful, Mari. Does that mean we'll be able to hold all the workshops we planned?" Selina asked, excited about the possibility of expanding access to art in the community. "Yes, and what's more? The businessman will arrive tomorrow to see the city and participate in the opening. You, as the coordinator of the art workshops, need to be present for the reception." The next day, the historic center of Paraty was decorated with colorful banners and panels of local art. Selina was organizing the final details of the exhibition when she noticed a man in a dark suit and sunglasses looking closely at one of her paintings. In complete contrast to the relaxed atmosphere of the festival, he seemed to be analyzing the work as if he were evaluating an investment. "This painting represents the intertwining between the sea and the history of Paraty," explained Selina, approaching with the naturalness of someone who was used to talking about art. The man removed his glasses, revealing piercing brown eyes that contrasted with his pragmatic expression. "Interesting. The technique is competent, but it seems to me excessively romantic in the interpretation," he replied, extending his hand. "Rafael Mendonça." "Selina Allard," she replied, feeling a strange electricity as she touched his hand. "You must be the festival's sponsor." "And you must be the idealist behind these workshops," he replied with a slight smile. During the next few days of the festival, Selina and Rafael met several times. As the CEO of one of the largest technology companies in the country, Rafael had a practical and calculating view of life. For Rafael, everything was about numbers, contracts, and results. Sponsoring the festival was just a marketing strategy for his company, nothing more. Selina, on the other hand, saw the world through the lenses of art and spirituality. Every conversation between them was a clash of visions, a clash between business pragmatism and artistic sensitivity. Strangely, this tension generated an attraction that neither of them could explain. "Do you really believe that art can transform lives?" Raphael asked, as they walked along the shore on the last night of the festival. "I don't just believe it, Raphael. I see it happen every day in my classes. Art allows people to reconnect with their essence, to find purpose." Raphael shook his head, skeptically. "Purpose? In my experience, people are driven by practical interests and needs. Such idealism can be dangerous." "Maybe it's this thought that makes many people's lives so empty of meaning," Selina countered, stopping to look at him. "What drives you, besides business success?" The question seemed to hit Raphael like a bolt of lightning. For a moment, his calculating expression gave way to something more vulnerable, almost lost. But he quickly composed himself, offering only a polite smile. The festival came to an end, and Raphael returned to São Paulo. Selina believed that she would never see him again, that their encounter had been just a brief crossing of paths. However, 2 weeks later, he returned to Paraty, surprising everyone by appearing at the small gallery where Selina was exhibiting her work. "I've thought a lot about our last conversation," Raphael confessed, as he surveyed a new series of paintings. "About purpose and meaning." "And did you come to any conclusion?" asked Selina, trying to disguise the rapid beating of her heart. "I just wanted to continue this conversation. I came to invite you to dinner in São Paulo next weekend." Selina hesitated. Raphael represented everything her father had taught her to question: the materialism, the transactional view of life, the lack of spiritual depth. Yet there was something about him, a loneliness hidden behind the facade of success, that aroused an irresistible curiosity in her. In the following weeks, meetings in São Paulo and Raphael's visits to Paraty became frequent. With each meeting, Selina noticed small cracks in Raphael's armor. Behind the pragmatic businessman, there was a man who had built defenses to avoid vulnerabilities. One night, during dinner at Raphael's penthouse apartment in São Paulo, with the city lit up in the background, he asked a question that would change the course of their lives. "What do you think about marriage, Selina?" The question took her by surprise. Despite their intense attraction and growing connection, they had only known each other for 3 months. "For me, marriage is a sacred commitment, Raphael. It is not just a contract, but a union of souls, of purposes." Raphael observed the city through the window for a few moments, as if calculating risks and benefits. Then he turned to her with an expression that Selina could not decipher. "I know this may sound strange, perhaps even calculating, but over the past few weeks I have realized that you have awakened something in me that I have never experienced before. I don't know what to call it, but perhaps you would call it a spiritual connection." He paused. "I would like to propose marriage, a union that could benefit us both. You would bring purpose to my pragmatic life, and I could provide stability to expand your artistic and educational projects." Selina felt the air escape her lungs. The proposal, although sincere, sounded like a business agreement, not a declaration of love. And yet there was something in Raphael's eyes, a genuine vulnerability, that made her wonder if this wasn't his way of expressing feelings that he didn't yet know how to process. "I need time to think," Selina replied, her heart beating wildly, torn between reason, which warned her about rushing, and something deeper, an intuition that whispered about possibilities for transformation. Upon returning to Paraty, Selina spent days in contemplation. She visited the small cemetery where her father was laid to rest, seeking spiritual guidance. She remembered his teachings on transformative love and wondered if this was her destiny, to help Raphael discover deeper dimensions of existence. Mariana, upon hearing about the proposal, expressed concern. "Cece, you barely know each other, and he seems so different from everything you've ever valued." "Maybe it's this difference that attracts us, Mari. I feel like there's more to him than this businessman facade. What if I'm the person who can help him rediscover his essence?" After 2 weeks of reflection, Selina made her decision. She called Raphael and with her heart racing gave her answer. What she didn't know was that this decision would only be the beginning of a journey that was much more complex and transformative than she could have imagined. News of the engagement between Selina Allard, an art teacher from Paraty, and Rafael Mendonça, a businessman from São Paulo, spread quickly through the small, historic city. While some celebrated the unexpected romance, others questioned the speed with which it had all happened. Beatriz Allard, Selina's mother, expressed her concern as she organized the family's old treasure chest on the porch of the colonial-style house. "Daughter, your father always taught us that decisions of the heart should not be rushed. You have known each other for such a short time." Selina helped her mother, removing old photographs and letters that had turned yellow with time. "I know, Mom, but I feel there is a greater purpose to this meeting. Raphael needs to rediscover the meaning of love, and maybe I am the person who can help him on that journey." Beatrice sighed, holding a portrait of Aaron, her late husband. "Your father always believed in your judgment. If you see something special in this young man, I trust your decision. I just hope you find the same happiness we had." The trunk revealed a sealed envelope with Selina's name written in Aaron's unmistakable handwriting. "What is this, Mother?" "Your father left you some letters before he left. He asked me to deliver each one at specific times in your life. This one was to be delivered when you decided to get married." Selina held the envelope with trembling hands, feeling a deep connection to her father even after his absence. She decided to save it to read later, in a moment of privacy. Meanwhile, in São Paulo, Rafael faced less understanding reactions when he announced his engagement during a meeting with his close circle at the Mendonça Tech office, located on the 45th floor of an imposing building on Avenida Paulista. "Marriage? You barely know this woman," exclaimed Henrique Vasconcelos, his business partner and longtime friend. "What happened to Rafael, who always said that relationships were unnecessary distractions?" Rafael. Watch the city through the panoramic window. The sky of São Paulo covered by a light haze of pollution that contrasted with the crystal blue of Parati. "Selina is different, Henrique. She sees the world in a way that I never considered. It's as if she sees dimensions that are beyond my reach. It seems my brother has finally found someone who challenges his pragmatism," Gustavo Mendonça said, entering the room with a smile. Unlike Rafael, Gustavo had always been the artist in the family, the dreamer who had chosen a career as a musician rather than following the family business. "It's not that simple," Rafael replied, bothered by his brother's accurate observation. "There are practical benefits to this union. Selina's perspective on culture and education can add a lot to the company's social projects." Enrique and Gustavo exchanged meaningful glances. Even trying to rationalize his decision, it was clear that Rafael was transformed by his encounter with Selina. "When will I meet her?" Gustavo asked, genuinely curious about the woman who had managed to penetrate his brother's defenses. "At the engagement dinner next Saturday. I'm having some important people over here at my house." Back in Parati that same night, Selina finally found the courage to open her father's letter. Sitting on the porch of her house, with the sound of the waves in the background, she broke the seal on the envelope and began to read. "Dear Selina, if you are reading this letter, it means that you have found someone with whom you want to share your life. I hope to be there for that moment, but if fate has determined otherwise, I want you to know that I am with you in spirit. True love, my daughter, is a journey of mutual transformation. It's not just about finding someone who already embodies all the values you hold dear, but about growing together, learning and teaching along the way. Always remember, every human being carries invisible wounds. Some people build walls around these wounds, mistaking protection for strength. Genuine love is not the kind that forcibly tears down these walls, but rather creates a safe space where the other person feels they can let down their defenses. This is just the first of several letters I have left for you. Each contains lessons I have learned throughout my life about love, commitment, and the spiritual journey we share with those we love. With all my love, your father, Aaron." Silent tears streamed down Selina's face as she held the letter to her chest. Her father's words seemed so appropriate to her current situation that it was as if he had predicted her meeting with Rafael. The following days were a whirlwind of preparations. Rafael had insisted on a formal engagement dinner in São Paulo, where he would officially introduce Selina to his family and social circle. For the occasion, he sent a driver to Parati to pick up Selina and her mother, ensuring that they arrived comfortably in the capital of São Paulo. Rafael's apartment was on the top 2 floors of a luxurious building in Moema. As she entered the private elevator, Selina felt a tightness in her chest. That world of wealth and ostentation was completely different from the authentic simplicity of Parati. For the first time, she questioned whether she really belonged there. "Relax," Beatrice whispered, sensing her daughter's tension. "Be yourself, you're the one he fell in love with." When the elevator doors opened, revealing an apartment decorated with contemporary design and art, Selina was greeted by Rafael, impeccably dressed in an Italian suit. Beside him, a younger, more relaxed-looking man smiled welcomingly. "Selina, this is my mother, Beatrice," Rafael introduced, and then indicated the man beside him. "And this is my brother, Gustavo." I finally meet the woman who achieved the impossible, making my brother believe that there is something beyond spreadsheets and contracts, joked Gustavo, hugging Selina warmly. Throughout the evening, as she was introduced to Raphael's friends and associates, Selina noticed how different he seemed in that environment. More rigid, more controlled, as if he were wearing invisible armor to protect himself. Even when he smiled or made polite comments, there was a distance in his eyes, a reserve that contrasted with the moments of vulnerability she had witnessed in Parati. During dinner, Enrique raised his glass in a toast. To Raphael and Selina, I confess that I never imagined seeing our pragmatic CEO talking about marriage, but as the saying goes, for every skeptic there is an art teacher in a historic city. As the guests laughed, Selina noticed a shadow pass over Raphael's face. There was something more to this resistance, to love, something beyond simple business pragmatism. Later, when most of the guests had already left, Selina found Gustavo on the balcony, contemplating the illuminated city. "My brother has changed since he met you," he commented, without taking his eyes off the view. "I haven't seen him so alive in years. Sometimes I feel like there's so much of him that I don't know yet," Selina confessed. "Like there's a part of Raphael that he keeps locked away." Gustavo turned to her, his expression serious. "Raphael wasn't always like this, you know. When we were children, he was full of dreams and sensitivity. It was our father who turned him into this calculating man." "Like this?" "Our father believed that feelings were weakness. After our mother abandoned us, he became even harsher, especially with Raphael, the firstborn who was supposed to take over the business." Gustavo paused. "Raphael learned from an early age that trust and love only bring suffering." That revelation hit Selina like a wave. She was finally beginning to understand the walls Raphael had built around her heart. The next morning, during breakfast on the roof, Raphael surprised Selina with an unexpected proposal. "I've been thinking, what if we got married in Parati? I know you've always dreamed of a traditional ceremony, and that place seems to have a special meaning for you." Selina nearly dropped her coffee cup. "Would you do that? I thought you'd prefer something low-key, maybe just in civility." Raphael held his hands across the table. "I want it to be perfect for you. Besides, I confess that there is something about that city that makes me feel different. Lighter, perhaps." What Selina didn't know was that the night before, after everyone had left, Raphael had found a photograph of her in Parati, smiling in front of the sea, and he had felt something he couldn't explain rationally. A deep desire to be part of that world, to experience the peace he saw in her eyes. In the weeks that followed, preparations for the wedding took Parati by storm. The small historic town rarely witnessed an event of this magnitude. Raphael insisted that no expense be spared, hiring the best suppliers and ensuring that the wedding would become the event of the year. Selina, however, remained true to her roots, insisting on simple, meaningful elements. She wanted the ceremony to reflect spiritual values, not just material ostentation. To her surprise, Raphael not only respected her wishes, but seemed genuinely interested in understanding the meaning behind each tradition. As the date approached, Selina noticed small changes in Raphael. Moments of openness, of genuine curiosity, alternated with sudden retreats behind his pragmatic facade. It was like watching someone struggling against invisible chains, wanting to break free, but fearing what freedom would find. On the eve of the wedding, during the rehearsal at the historic church of Santa Rita, Selina found Raphael alone, looking at the altar with a contemplative expression. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, approaching silently. Raphael took a few moments to answer, as if he had returned from a distant place. "I'm thinking about promises, how some are made to be broken while others—" He turned to face her. "Others can rewrite an entire life." The day dawned with a special clarity in Parati. Rays of sunlight filtered through the clouds, creating a play of light and shadow on the stone streets of the historic city. It was as if Nature itself wanted to bless the union that would take place that day. Selina woke up in her childhood bedroom in the colonial house that had belonged to her family for generations. Sitting in front of the antique dressing table, she watched her reflection as Mariana fixed her hair. In the mirror, she saw not only the bride she would be in a few hours, but also the girl who had grown up listening to stories of true love, told by her father. "Are you nervous?" Mariana asked, placing a delicate jasmine flower in her hair. "Strangely no," Selina replied with a serene smile. "I feel an inexplicable certainty, as if this is the path I must follow." Beatrice entered, the room carrying a carved wooden box. Her eyes were shining with unshed tears. "Your grandmother wore this on her wedding day, and I wore this on mine," she said, opening the box to reveal a delicate pearl necklace. "Your father wanted you to wear it on your special day. As a..." Beatrice placed the necklace around her neck. Selina felt a deep connection to her family history, to the generations of women who had walked the path of love before her. For a moment she felt her father's presence, as if he were there blessing her choice. Across town, in the luxurious historic hotel where he was staying, Raphael adjusted his tie in front of the mirror. Gustavo watched him with a mixture of admiration and concern. "Are you sure about this, bro? Marriage is a serious commitment. It's not like a business contract that can be terminated with a clause." Raphael paused, meeting his brother's gaze in the reflection. "For the first time in my life, Gustavo, I'm doing something without calculating all the risks. And strangely enough, I've never felt so sure about a decision." Gustavo smiled, coming closer to adjust his brother's suit. "Selina is special. I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at her. She sees something in me that I can't even see myself," Raphael confessed, with rare vulnerability. "It's like she believes in a version of me that was buried long ago." The Church of Santa Rita, the oldest in Parity, was decorated with white flower arrangements and candles that created an ethereal atmosphere. The wooden benches were occupied by a curious mix of worlds. On one side, the simple residents of Parity, friends and students of Selina. On the other, sophisticated businessmen and influential figures from São Paulo, Raphael's social circle. When the music began, everyone stood up. Selina walked slowly down the aisle, accompanied by Beatrice. Her dress, made of delicate lace and simple cut, contrasted with the opulence that Raphael had initially suggested, but which she had kindly declined. For Selina, the beauty of the moment was not in the ostentation but in the sincerity of the vows they would exchange. As he saw Selina approaching, Raphael felt something strange and unfamiliar expand in his chest. For a moment, all the voices, warning him about risks and uncertainties, fell silent. There was only her, walking toward him like a promise that life could be more than spreadsheets and negotiations. The ceremony was conducted by Father Joachim, who had known Selina since she was a child. In his homily, he spoke about the union not only of two people, but of two worldviews, two ways of seeing life that together could create something new and transformative. When the time came to take the vows, Raphael surprised everyone, especially Selina, by leaving aside the formal text he had prepared. "Selina, I enter into this union recognizing that you see in me possibilities that I have long since ceased to believe in. I promise to be open to rediscovering those forgotten parts of me, to learning from your way of seeing the world." He paused, visibly moved. "I do not know if I am capable of the kind of love you deserve, but I promise to try every day to be worthy of the faith you place in me." Selina, with tears in her eyes, held Raphael's hands in hers. "Raphael, I promise to honor not only who you are today, but who you can become. I believe that true love is a journey of mutual transformation, and I am ready for us to walk together, discovering new dimensions in ourselves and in each other." After exchanging rings, the priest declared them husband and wife. The kiss that sealed the union was accompanied by applause and some emotional tears from those present. Not even Henrique, Raphael's skeptical partner, could hide his emotion when he saw his friend visibly transformed. The reception was held in the garden of an old restored colonial house overlooking the sea. Tables arranged under ancient trees, lit by paper lanterns and candles, created a magical atmosphere. The food, prepared by the best local chefs, celebrated the traditional flavors of the region, while a band played music that mixed Brazilian rhythms with international classics. Selena and Raphael circulated among the guests, two worlds trying to meet. She introduced her teacher friends and former students to businessmen in suits. He patiently explained to confused businessmen the historical and cultural value of parity. At one point, Gustavo went up onto the small stage and asked for everyone's attention. With his guitar, he dedicated a song to the bride and groom, a composition of his own that spoke of walls that fall and hearts that open. Raphael, normally reserved in public displays of affection, hugged his brother tightly after the performance, whispering a thank you that carried years of distance being overcome. Late at night, when many guests had left, Selena found Raphael contemplating the sea from the balcony of the house. She approached him silently, hugging him from behind. "What are you thinking, husband?" she asked softly. Raphael turned to face her, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. "I'm thinking about how you brought me to a place I didn't even know existed. I don't just mean parity, but this space inside me that was dormant." That night, in the presidential suite of the historic hotel, Selena and Raphael discovered an intimacy that transcended the physical. For her, who had always preserved her purity for this special moment, their surrender was an act of absolute trust. For him, accustomed to superficial relationships based on attraction and convenience, it was a revelation about the transformative power of genuine vulnerability. The next morning, the couple left for their honeymoon in Chapada Diamantina, a destination chosen by Selena for its natural beauty and spiritual energy. For 2 weeks away from offices and obligations, Raphael allowed himself to experience a different rhythm of life. Hiking along ancient trails, bathing in crystal clear waterfalls and nights gazing at the starry sky, free from the light pollution of big cities, were moments of rediscovery for him. "I never imagined I could feel so much peace," Raphael confessed, as they watched the sunset from atop a plateau. "It's as if, for the first time, I could hear my own thoughts without the constant noise of worries and goals." Selena smiled, holding his hand. "This is just the beginning of the journey, Raphael. There are so many dimensions of life that we can still explore together." The return to reality, however, brought challenges that the isolation of the honeymoon had temporarily eliminated. The initial plan was for Selena to move to São Paulo, where Raphael needed to be for his business. The impersonal penthouse apartment in MoMA, decorated by a professional to impress rather than welcome, would be the couple's home. When Selena entered the apartment that was her new home, she felt a tightness in her chest. The large minimalist spaces, dominated by neutral tones and contemporary design pieces, contrasted drastically with the warm colonial house in Paraty, full of colors, textures, and memories. "We can redecorate if you like," Raphael suggested, sensing her discomfort. "This place has never really been a home to me, just a place to sleep between appointments." Over the next few weeks, Selena tried to infuse her personality into the apartment. Colorful paintings, handmade pillows, plants, and objects with history began to occupy the previously sterile spaces. Raphael, to his surprise, seemed to enjoy the changes, as if the transformation of the environment also allowed for an internal transformation. The biggest challenge, however, was not the physical space, but Raphael's return to his business routine. Gradually, Selena noticed the armor closing in again. Meetings were going on until late at night, business trips were becoming more frequent, and the vulnerable and open man she had met in Paraty and on her honeymoon seemed to be giving way once again to the pragmatic and distant CEO. Determined not to let external pressures stifle what they had built, Selena looked for ways to fit into the new reality. She got a job as an art teacher at a renowned private school in São Paulo, and began developing a project of cultural workshops for children from underprivileged communities on the outskirts of the city. One night, after Raphael arrived particularly late and exhausted from a business meeting, Selena realized it was time for a heart-to-heart. "We're losing our way, Raphael," she said, sitting down next to him on the living room couch. "You're falling back into old patterns, hiding behind spreadsheets and contracts." Raphael sighed deeply, rubbing his tired eyes. It's not that simple, Selina. I have responsibilities. People depend on my decisions. I understand that, she replied, taking his hands in hers. But I also know that there is more to you than the ruthless executive. I saw it in Parity. I saw it on our honeymoon. We can't allow the world to suffocate that part of you. Raphael was silent for a few moments, his eyes revealing an internal struggle. Finally, as if he were gathering courage to take a leap into the dark, he began to talk about his past, about a childhood marked by his mother's abandonment and the rigidity of a father who saw feelings as weakness, about previous relationships that ended in betrayal and disappointment, reinforcing his belief that trust was a risk not worth taking. I built my entire life around the idea that I didn't need anyone, he confessed, his voice breaking. That professional success and financial independence were enough. Then you came along, challenging everything I believed in, making me want something I had always considered an illusion. Selina hugged him tightly, feeling the walls around her heart tremble. That night marked a turning point in their relationship. Their shared vulnerability created a new level of intimacy between them. Over the next few weeks, they established new rituals to preserve their connection amid the pressures of everyday life. Cell-free breakfasts where they shared thoughts and plans, one night a week dedicated exclusively to each other, alternating between cultural experiences that Selina valued and moments of relaxation that Raphael needed. Slowly, they were learning to create a new world, which was neither Raphael's cold pragmatism nor Selina's pure idealism, but something new that was born from the meeting of these two visions. What neither of them imagined was that they would soon face a challenge that would profoundly test this fragile harmony they were beginning to build. 3 months after the wedding, on a rainy Sunday afternoon, the apartment in São Paulo was plunged into a cozy silence. Raphael, sitting on the sofa in the living room, was reviewing work documents while Selina organized some boxes that had arrived from Parity, the last belongings needed to complete their move. Among old books and childhood memories, Selina found an envelope she had not noticed before. It was large, made of brown paper, and was written in her father's elegant handwriting, "To my daughter on the 3rd month of her marriage." "Raphael," she called, her voice choked with emotion. "I found something." Intrigued by the emotion in his wife's voice, Raphael put the documents aside and approached. Selina showed him the envelope, explaining about the letters her father had left for different moments in his life. "It's like he's still here, guiding my steps," she said, caressing the sealed envelope. "Like he somehow knew exactly when I would need his words." Raphael watched the scene with a mixture of fascination and discomfort. The idea of a father's love being so present, even after his physical departure, was something completely foreign to his experience. His own father, Augusto Mendonça, had been a distant and critical figure who measured his son's worth exclusively by his material achievements. With careful hands, Selina opened the envelope, finding inside not only a letter but also an old key and a photograph yellowed by time, her father young, next to a leafy tree in a place she did not recognize. "Dear Selina, if you are reading this letter, it means that it has been 3 months since your wedding. I hope that you are discovering day by day the joys and challenges of building a life with someone. Today I want to share with you a secret that I have kept for many years. Before I met your mother, I was also a person who was closed off to love. I grew up believing that showing feelings was a sign of weakness, that success was measured only by concrete achievements. It took a deep crisis, a moment in which I lost everything that I considered important, for me to be able to discover what really mattered. The photograph I am sending shows the place where I found my true self, a small property on the outskirts of Parity, where I once planted this tree as a symbol of a new beginning. The key opens the door to this house, which now belongs to you. I don't know who the person you have chosen to share your life with is, but I know that, like every human being, he or she carries invisible wounds, unspoken fears, dreams, abandoned. Along the way, true love is not the one that ignores these shadows, but the one that has the courage to illuminate them with understanding. Home is there, waiting for you, as a refuge where you can reconnect with the essential when the outside world becomes too noisy. Use it wisely. With all my love, your father, Aaron. Selina read the letter aloud, her voice trembling with emotion. When she finished, she looked at Raphael, who seemed deeply affected by the words. "Did you know about this property?" asked, picking up the photograph to examine it more closely. "No," Selina replied, still processing the revelation. "Dad never mentioned it. It must be a very special place for him to have kept it a secret all these years." Raphael looked at the antique key in his hand. It was surprisingly heavy, made of wrought iron with delicate details, the kind of key you don't see anymore in the modern world of magnetic cards and digital passwords. "What if we went there?" "Next weekend," he suggested, surprising Selina with his enthusiasm. "I can rearrange some plans." The sparkle in Selina's eyes when she heard the proposal was like an early reward for Raphael. In the last few months, although they had been working hard to build their new life together, he knew that Selina missed Parati, the connection with her roots and the simplicity that the historic city represented. The following Saturday, the couple traveled to Parati. After a brief visit to Beatrice's house, they followed Aaron's instructions to find the property. The dirt road wound through hills covered in lush Atlantic forest, gradually moving away from the city and toward the interior. After about half an hour, they came to a small clearing where a stone and wood house stood, partially covered by flowering vines. It was a simple building, but with an organic beauty that seemed to emanate from the earth itself. And there it was, the tree from the photograph, now much taller and more imposing, with branches that stretched like welcoming arms over the house. "It's a pink jequitiba," Selina explained, recognizing the species. "It can live for hundreds of years. Dad chose his symbol of new beginnings well." The key turned easily in the lock as if the door had just been waiting for his return. The interior of the house was simple but welcoming. Rustic furniture, shelves, filled with books, a stone fireplace and large windows that framed the surrounding landscape. Everything was surprisingly well kept, as if someone regularly took care of the place. "Donna Zuleide must have kept everything in order," Selina commented, remembering the former maid who had worked for her family for decades and who still lived nearby. While exploring the house, Raphael found another envelope with Selina's name on it on a solid wood desk. Inside was another letter from Aaron. "Dear Selina and husband, if you have found this place, it is because you are ready for the next step in your journey together. This home has been my refuge during the most challenging moments of my life. Here, away from the distractions and expectations of the world, I have been able to listen to my own inner voice and reconnect with my essence. What few people know is that it was here that I wrote my best poems, the ones that truly expressed my soul. On the shelf to the right of the fireplace, you will find a book with a red cover. These are verses that I never published, saved for the right moment, this moment. May this place be for you what it was for me, a sanctuary where you can truly be yourself without masks or armor. Aaron." Selina found the book mentioned, and together she and Raphael spent hours reading Aaron Allard's never-before-published poems. They were profound verses about transformation, about finding light in the shadows, about the courage it takes to truly love. That weekend at the Jequitiba house, as they came to call it, marked a new phase in the couple's relationship. Far from the pressures of São Paulo, Raphael allowed himself to be vulnerable in a way he rarely could in the city. He shared childhood memories that he had buried deep inside, talked about abandoned dreams, the weight of carrying his father's expectations, and the void left by his mother, who had left when he was just 8 years old. "I think I understand now why you built so many defenses," Selina said as they walked hand in hand through the property. "When we are hurt so young, we learn to protect ourselves. The problem is that I've protected myself for so long that I've forgotten what it's like to live without that armor," Raphael confessed. "You're the first person in years who's made me want to try." Over the next few months, the Jequitiba house became a regular retreat for the couple. Whenever the pressures of São Paulo became overwhelming, they would escape there for a weekend. Raphael even installed a solar power system and satellite internet, allowing him to work remotely when needed while maintaining the rustic essence of the place. It was during one of these stays that Selina found, hidden in a secret drawer of the desk, another letter from her father, along with a leather-bound diary. "My dear daughter, if you found this letter, it is because you and your partner have already created a special connection with this place." The journal that accompanies these words tells the story that I never had the courage to share in life, my own journey of transformation. Just like everyone else, I made mistakes, I carried regrets, I faced my own demons. I was never the perfect man you might have imagined, but I was someone who never gave up trying to be better every day. There is a passage in this journal about a particularly difficult time I faced before I met your mother. Perhaps it will help. Your husband understands that no one is born knowing how to love. It is a skill that we develop with practice, patience, and inevitably a few scars along the way. Aaron. The diary revealed a very different Aaron Allard from the image Selina had of her father. In its pages, he described a youth marked by boundless ambition, superficial relationships, and a relentless search for recognition that left him perpetually dissatisfied. He described how, after a nervous breakdown at the age of 30, he had abandoned a promising career in São Paulo to take refuge in that property in Paraty, where he slowly rediscovered the meaning of life through simplicity, connection, with nature, and eventually true love when he met Beatriz. For Raphael, these revelations were profoundly shocking. Seeing that the man Selina admired so much, the one who seemed to embody all the ideals of spirituality and wisdom, had once been someone so much like himself, opened up a new perspective. If Aaron had managed to transform himself so completely, perhaps there was hope for him too. "Your father was an extraordinary man," Raphael commented after they finished reading the diary. "Not because of his perfection, but because of his courage to face his imperfections and work to overcome them." "I think that's what he wanted us to learn," Selina replied, leaning her head on her husband's shoulder as they watched the sunset through the window. "That true strength is not in never falling, but in the courage to get up and keep going." During his stay at the Jequitibá house, Raphael made an important decision. Upon returning to São Paulo, he announced that he would reduce his workload at the company, delegating more responsibilities to Henrique and other trusted executives. He wanted to dedicate more time to his relationship with Selina and the social projects she had been developing. "I don't want to wake up in 20 years and realize I built an empire but missed out on what really matters," he explained when Henrique questioned his decision. "There's more to life than quarterly financial statements and market value." Raphael's transformation did not go unnoticed by those around him. Employees noticed that his boss was more understanding and attentive. Gustavo commented with surprise at how much more relaxed and present his brother seemed. Even Henrique, initially skeptical, began to recognize that the change was having a positive effect not only on Raphael personally, but also on the company culture as a whole. For Selina, it was like witnessing the blossoming of a flower that had long remained in bud. Each day Raphael revealed new facets of himself, allowing himself to experience emotions and connections that he would have previously considered irrelevant or even dangerous. What neither of them imagined, however, was that this journey of self-discovery would be abruptly interrupted by an event that would test not only their love, but everything they believed about security, success, and the true meaning of wealth. The news came one Tuesday morning, when Raphael and Selina were having coffee on the terrace of their apartment. The phone rang insistently, and Raphael's expression gradually changed as he listened to his interlocutor. Selina watched, apprehensively, the lines of worry that formed on her husband's forehead. "I see. I'll be there in 30 minutes, he said finally, hanging up the phone with a serious expression Selina had never seen before. "What happened?" she asked, holding her hand across the table. "If this story is touching your heart, leave a heart in the comments." Raphael took a deep breath, as if gathering his strength. "One of our largest international projects has suffered a devastating cyber attack. Years of development, customer data, everything compromised." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that Selina already recognized as a sign of great anxiety. But there is something worse. It seems that the attack was facilitated by someone inside the company. In the weeks that followed, the apartment was practically empty during the day. Raphael spent endless hours at the company, trying to contain the damage, reassure investors, and identify whoever was responsible for the sabotage. When he finally returned late at night, he was exhausted beyond the physical. It was a weariness of the soul, a weight that Selina could feel even when he tried to hide it with forced smiles. One of those nights, while she was preparing tea for her husband, Selina heard a noise coming from the office. Entering silently, she found Raphael sitting in the dark, his face buried in his hands, his shoulders shaking with suppressed sobs. "I'm losing everything, Selina," he confessed as she knelt before him. "The attack was just the beginning. Several clients are cancelling contracts, the stock market has plummeted, and now we've discovered financial irregularities I can't explain." "We'll get through this together," she assured him, holding his hands tightly. "Whatever happens to the company, the money, the status, none of that defines who you are." Raphael looked at her, a raw vulnerability in his eyes. "You don't understand. Everything I've built, everything I've believed was important for years, it's falling apart. And the worst part is, I don't know if I have the strength to start over." "Maybe that's exactly what you need," Selina replied softly. "A fresh start. As your father-in-law wrote in his diary, sometimes we have to lose what we thought was essential in order to discover what really matters." That early morning marked a turning point. In the dim light of his office, Raphael finally allowed himself to be completely vulnerable, sharing not only his practical concerns but his deepest fears. The fear of failure, of being judged, of becoming irrelevant. The fear, most terrifying of all, of losing Selina when he no longer had the success and wealth that defined him. "Do you really think I married you for your money or status?" she asked, with a mixture of sadness and indignation. "That's exactly what I've always fought against. This superficial, transactional view of life. If you don't understand that yet, then maybe we haven't come as far as I thought." The words struck Raphael like an awakening. In the months they had spent together, in Aaron's letters, in their conversations at the Jequiti house, he had glimpsed another way of existing, a way of life based on values deeper than material success. Now, at a time when that success was threatened, he realized how much he still clung to his old identity. "You're right," he admitted, taking her hands in his. "Part of me still clings to the idea that my worth lies in what I have, in what I have achieved. But another part, the part you have awakened, knows there is more to me than that." In the weeks that followed, the company's situation continued to deteriorate. An internal investigation revealed that Enrique, the company's longtime partner and friend, had manipulated financial data and facilitated the cyber attack as part of an elaborate scheme to take control of the company. The betrayal of someone so close to him was a devastating blow to Raphael. He and Enrique had started out together, sharing dreams and struggles in the early days of the company. Beyond the financial implications, it was a deep emotional wound, a confirmation of his long-held fears about the impossibility of truly trusting anyone. When the dust began to settle, the reality was stark. The company was severely compromised with massive debts and a ruined reputation. Several of Raphael's properties and investments had to be liquidated to cover legal liabilities. The luxury apartment in Moema was one of the first assets to be sold. "We need to rethink our lifestyle," Raphael explained to Selina as they organized the move. "I can't afford all this anymore." To his surprise, Selina received the news with a calmness he hadn't expected. "I never cared for this apartment, Raphael. It was beautiful, but it never felt like a real home." "Where shall we go?" he asked, realizing that he had not considered this practical question. Selina smiled, a determined glint in her eyes. "How about the Jequiti house? It's ours, debt-free, and has everything we need to start over." The suggestion took Raphael by surprise. Moving permanently to Parati would mean completely abandoning the life he knew in São Paulo, the city where he had built his professional identity. But what about your work at school? What about my contacts here? How am I going to rebuild my career away from the financial center? Maybe it's not about rebuilding exactly what we had before, Selina suggested. Maybe it's about building something new, something more aligned with who we really are. Moving to the Jequitiba house was not just a physical relocation, but a complete reinvention of life. The first few days were full of adjustments. Raphael had to get used to the slower pace of the small town, the absence of the constant hustle and bustle and the conveniences of the city. Selina, on the other hand, flourished as she returned to her roots, rediscovered old friendships and reconnected with the lush nature that surrounded the property. Raphael turned one of the rooms in his house into a makeshift office, from where he tried to salvage what he could of the business. The news continued to be difficult. Lawsuits, creditors demanding payment, resentful former employees giving interviews that further tarnished his reputation. One particularly challenging afternoon, after a tense video conference with lawyers, Raphael went for a walk around the property, seeking clarity. Under the shade of the immense Jequitiba tree, he sat on the same rustic bench where Aaron had probably sat years before, facing his own demons. It was there, contemplating the serene majesty of the centuries-old tree, that Raphael had an epiphany. For years he had dedicated his energy, intelligence, and creativity to building material wealth. What if he now directed those same resources toward something more meaningful? Something that, even if it didn't bring him the same financial return, could leave a more lasting legacy. When Selina returned from the city where she had gone to meet up with old students, she found Raphael on the balcony, a renewed sparkle in his eyes that she had not seen since the crisis. "I have an idea," he said without preamble. "I want to turn part of the property into a technology education center for local youth." Selina listened, fascinated as Raphael explained his vision. To use his knowledge of technology to offer free training in programming, digital design and entrepreneurship to young people in Parity and the surrounding area, especially those from underprivileged communities who would not normally have access to this type of training. "The Paraíba Valley has untapped technological potential," he continued enthusiastically. "With the expansion of remote work, these young people could find global opportunities without having to leave their communities. We could create an innovation hub that respects and values local culture." The sparkle in Raphael's eyes was contagious. For the first time in weeks, Selina saw in him not the man defeated by the crisis, but the passionate visionary she had always known existed beneath the facade of the pragmatic businessman. "That's a wonderful idea," she replied, equally excited. "We could integrate arts and technology, environmental preservation and digital innovation, create something that honors both my father's legacy and his entrepreneurial skills." Over the next few days, the couple worked feverishly on developing the project. Raphael used his remaining contacts to seek out partners and supporters. To his surprise, several loyal former employees offered to help, some willing to move to Parity to be part of the initiative. Gustavo, who had a network of contacts in the arts and culture world, was also enthusiastic about the idea, offering to develop the musical part of the program. As the project took shape, something extraordinary happened to Raphael. The anxiety about lawsuits and debts didn't disappear completely, but it gradually lost its centrality in his life. In its place grew a sense of purpose that he had never experienced, even in his most financially successful moments. "It's strange," he said to Selina one night as they watched the stars from the porch of their house. "I've lost almost everything materially, but I've never felt so rich." Selina smiled, snuggling closer to him. "That reminds me of a passage in my father's journal. He wrote that true abundance is not in what we possess, but in what we can offer the world from who we truly are." The first significant setback in the new project came when the city government of Parity initially denied a permit for the construction of the educational center facilities. Some local politicians, suspicious of the intentions of a São Paulo businessman, raised seemingly insurmountable bureaucratic obstacles. It was at this point that Selina realized how much Raphael had truly changed. Instead of using his old method of lobbying through economic power or political connections, he took a completely different approach. He organized community meetings, listened to residents' concerns, adapted the project to incorporate local suggestions, and most importantly, demonstrated genuine respect for the region's culture and traditions. "We are not here to impose a model from outside," he explained during a tense town hall meeting. "We are here to build together with the community something that makes sense for Parity and its people." Gradually, the resistance began to wane. Beatrice, respected in the city, used her influence to support the project. Former students of Selina, now adults occupying positions in the municipal administration, became important allies. Even Donna Zuleide, who had looked after the Jequitiba house for so many years, mobilized her extensive family network to support the initiative. 6 months. After moving to Parity, while they were supervising the start of construction work on what would become the Aaron Allard Technological and Cultural Center, Selina handed Raphael a small package. "I found it hidden in the last secret drawer of the desk," she explained. "It has your name on it." Curious, Raphael opened the package, finding an antique pocket watch and a handwritten note. "To the man who captured my daughter's heart. If you are reading this, it is because you have walked through a dark valley and found light on the other side. This watch belonged to my grandfather, then my father, and then me. It tells not just ours but generations who have learned, often the hard way, that time is our most precious commodity. Use it wisely, knowing that every second is an opportunity to choose who you truly want to be." Aaron Allard. Raphael held the watch with trembling hands, deeply touched by the gesture that crossed time. How could Aaron have predicted his journey with such precision? How could he have prepared such a meaningful gift for someone he had never met? "Your father was truly an extraordinary man," he said, his voice breaking. "He believed that there are patterns in life that repeat themselves," Selina replied, wrapping her arms around his waist as they watched the sun set over the center's early construction. "That certain challenges are universal, and that we all at some point have to lose something to find what truly matters." That night, under the stars that shone with a clarity impossible to see in São Paulo, Raphael realized that his financial crisis, painful as it had also been a gift. He had broken the hardened shell that separated him from his true essence, allowing a new man to emerge, no longer defined by what he had, but by what he could offer the world. Spring arrived in Parity, bringing with it an explosion of color and life. Construction on the Aaron Allard Technological and Cultural Center was progressing rapidly, transforming part of the Jequitiba estate into a space that combined tradition and innovation. The architectural design, developed by a young local architect whom Selina had met as a student, incorporated sustainable materials and traditional techniques from the region, resulting in a structure that seemed to grow organically from the landscape itself. Raphael, sitting in the shade of the Jequitiba tree with his laptop, was finishing a video conference with potential investors when Selina approached, carrying a tray with fresh breakfast. "How was the meeting?" she asked, sitting down next to him on the time-polished wooden bench. "Surprisingly well," Raphael replied, closing the computer with a sigh of relief. "The Silva Matos Foundation will finance the entire programming, lab and the solar energy system. And the most incredible thing is that they didn't ask for anything in return other than guaranteed places for young people from the Quilombola communities in the region." Selina smiled, pouring coffee for them both in ceramic mugs made by local artisans. "See, there are people who understand the value of what we're building, who don't measure everything in terms of immediate financial return." Raphael watched the construction site in the distance, where local workers were building the walls that would house dreams and possibilities for so many young people. "You know what's weird? I'm more excited about this project than I've ever been about any multi-million-dollar business in São Paulo. It's like I'm finally doing something that really matters." Raphael's transformation over the past few months was evident not only to Selina, but to everyone around him. The ruthless executive who had first arrived in Parati had given way to a more thoughtful, more connected man who now greeted every worker on the project by name and stopped to have genuine conversations with locals. Even his appearance had changed. His impeccable suits had been replaced by more casual clothes, and he had grown a discreet beard that Selina loved to stroke. The couple had established a new routine that respected the natural rhythm of the days. They woke up early, often to watch the sunrise from the balcony. Mornings were spent working at the center. Raphael focused on administrative and technological aspects, Selina developing the educational curriculum that would integrate art, local culture, and technology. Afternoons often included walks around the property or visits to the city, where they gradually became part of the community. "I got a message from Gustavo," Raphael said, nibbling on toast with homemade jabuticaba jam. "He confirmed that he will be coming next week to start the music program. He is bringing some donated instruments and 2 friends who are professors from the São Paulo Conservatory." "This is wonderful," Selina exclaimed, genuinely happy. The relationship between the Mendonça siblings had blossomed in recent months, healing old wounds left by a father who had always pitted them against each other. "It's going to be amazing to have your brother working with us. The kids are going to love him." As they discussed plans for the center, they were interrupted by the arrival of Donna Zuleide, the 70-year-old woman who had looked after the property for so long and who now helped with the domestic management of the house. "Mrs. Selina, another letter has arrived," she announced, handing over an envelope that Selina immediately recognized as being from her father. "It was kept where your father instructed me, to be delivered when the center began to take shape." With slightly trembling hands, Selina opened the envelope, finding inside not only a letter but also a hand-drawn map of the property, with an area circled in red that was not far from the main house. "Dear Selina, if this letter has reached your hands, it means that you and your partner have found a common purpose that transcends individual interests. The center you are building, yes, somehow you always knew that this place would be the stage for transformation, represents not only a service to the community, but the materialization of a dream that began a long time ago. What you probably don't know yet is that this property holds yet another secret. On the attached map, I have marked a spot where almost 30 years ago, I buried a time capsule containing objects, writings, and dreams that I believe will serve as inspiration for the work you are now doing. To find it, follow the path that leads to the small waterfall, and from there take exactly 40 steps in the direction of the sunset. Under a flat stone marked with my initials, you will find what I left for you. This will be my last letter, my daughter. From here on, the story belongs entirely to you, with eternal love. Your father, Aaron." Raphael watched the emotion on Selina's face as she read the letter aloud. Even though he had never met Aaron Allard in person, he felt as if the man had become a constant presence in his life, a mentor who, in some mysterious way, seemed to have foreseen every step of his journey of transformation. "Shall we look for it right now?" he suggested, taking Selina's hand, as eager as she was to discover this last gift left by her father-in-law. The trail to the small waterfall was familiar to both of them, having explored every corner of the property in the last few months. The sound of water falling over polished stones created a natural music that always brought peace. From there, following the instructions in the letter, they counted 40 steps towards the west, arriving at a clearing where, partially covered by leaves and moss, they found the flat stone with the initials AA discreetly carved. Together they moved the stone, revealing a hermetically sealed metal box. Inside, carefully preserved, they found several items: old photographs of Parati, newspaper clippings about innovative educational projects from the 1990s, seeds of native species in small labeled envelopes, and a leather-bound notebook titled Visions for a Possible Future. In the pages of the notebook, Aaron had detailed dreams and projects that he had never been able to implement in his lifetime, from an educational system that integrated technology and traditional knowledge to environmental preservation initiatives that generated income for local communities. It was striking how many of those ideas, written decades earlier, seemed perfectly aligned with what Raphael and Selina were now building. "It's incredible," Raphael murmured, flipping through the pages, reverently. It's as if he planted seeds not only in the literal sense, but also ideas that waited for the right moment to germinate. Selina, with tears in her eyes, held a photograph that showed her father, very young, with a group of children in an outdoor class, right under the Jequitiba tree that now shaded their house. He always believed that education was the key to any true transformation. That discovery injected new energy into the project. Many of Aaron's ideas were incorporated into the center's plan, creating a bridge between past and future that honored his legacy while breaking new ground. In the weeks that followed, an unexpected wave of support began to pour in. Former employees of Raphael's company in São Paulo, who had remained loyal even after the crisis, volunteered to teach courses and workshops. Artists and artisans from Parity embraced the project, proposing workshops that would preserve traditional techniques while connecting them to new technologies. Even some of the investors who had abandoned Raphael during the financial crisis began to show interest in supporting the initiative, impressed by the positive response the center was generating even before it opened. One of the most surprising moments occurred when a large technology company, a competitor of Raphael's former company, contacted him offering a partnership. They had read about the project in a news article and saw it as an opportunity for genuine social investment, not just a marketing strategy. They are offering state-of-the-art equipment, scholarships, and even internship opportunities for our students, Raphael explained to Selina after a long video conference, and most importantly, without interfering with our pedagogical autonomy. It's fascinating how doors open when we follow an authentic path, Selina commented, adjusting a painting on the wall of the room that would be the administrative heart of the center, a framed reproduction of the first letter from her father that she had received after accepting the marriage proposal. As the project progressed, Raphael realized that he needed to resolve issues from his past in order to fully embrace this new chapter. One of them was the situation with Henrique, his former partner, who had been responsible for the sabotage that had resulted in the financial crisis. After much reflection, Raphael decided not to pursue some of the legal actions he had initiated against Henrique, not out of weakness or resignation, but out of a deep understanding that prolonging that conflict would only keep alive a wound that needed to heal. "Are you sure about this?" Selina asked when he explained his decision. "After everything he's done." "I will never get back what I have lost materially," Raphael replied, with a serenity that surprised even himself. "But if I continue to harbor anger and resentment, I will lose something much more valuable. This peace I have finally found. This clarity about what really matters." Selina hugged him tightly, recognizing that decision as one of the most concrete proofs of her husband's transformation. The Raphael she had met in São Paulo would never give up on a battle, especially when he knew he had the right on his side. This new Raphael, however, had learned that some victories come not from confrontation, but from letting go. One morning, while they were supervising the installation of equipment in the center's computer room, Raphael received an unexpected call. It was Gustavo with surprising news. "You're not going to believe this, bro," he said, his voice brimming with excitement. "Remember that app we built together years ago before the company took off? The one that let independent musicians distribute their songs directly to their fans?" "Of course I remember," Raphael replied. "It had been one of the first projects the brothers had developed together, before their lives took such different paths. We abandoned it because it didn't seem commercially viable at the time. Well, apparently the idea was just ahead of its time. A startup in Berlin has developed something very similar and is looking for the original technology to incorporate some features we patented. They are offering a considerable amount for the rights." Raphael was silent, processing the irony of the situation. A project that had been considered a commercial failure, abandoned in favor of more profitable ventures, now resurfaced as a possible financial lifeline. "Isn't it amazing?" asked Selina, who had overheard the conversation. "The very project they developed when they were still creating out of passion, not calculation, is what is now returning." This unexpected turn of events brought not only a welcome financial relief, allowing them to accelerate some of the center's milestones that had been delayed by budget constraints, but also a profound sense of closure for Raphael. It was as if the universe was confirming that his new path did not mean completely abandoning his previous talent and experience, but redirecting them toward a purpose more aligned with his current values. As the center's opening date approached, an infectious energy filled the property. Volunteers arrived daily to help with preparations, many of them young locals eager to participate in the courses that would be offered. Beatrice, who had initially been hesitant to get directly involved in the project, surprised everyone by proposing to coordinate a mentoring program that would connect community elders with young students, bridging the gap between traditional wisdom and technological innovation. "Your father would be so proud," she told Selina, as they organized the center's library, where classic works would share space with technical publications and local productions. "Not just of you, but of him as well." Beatrice pointed to Raphael, who was chatting excitedly with a group of young people about the possibilities the program would open up for them. Selina watched her husband with a mixture of love and admiration. "He's come a long way," she agreed. "Sometimes I think that somehow Dad knew this was coming, that all those letters, all those clues he left, were actually a roadmap to this transformation." On the eve of the inauguration, while the last preparations were being finalized, Selina found Raphael again under the Jequitiba tree, holding the old pocket watch that Aaron had left for him. "A penny for your thoughts," she joked, sitting down beside him. Raphael smiled, carefully putting the watch back in his pocket. "I was thinking about how unpredictable life is. A year ago, if someone had told me that I would be here, building an educational center in Paraty, I would have thought that person was completely insane. And now I can't imagine being anywhere else, doing anything else." He looked at her intently. "Or with anyone else." As the sun set over Paraty, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Raphael and Selina sat under the Jequitiba tree, hands clasped, feeling part of something bigger than themselves. A story that had begun long before them, and that would continue far beyond, through the lives that would be transformed by the work they were just beginning. The opening day of the Aaron Allard Technological and Cultural Center dawned radiantly. The sky in Paraty displayed such an intense blue that it seemed hand-painted, while a gentle breeze swayed the leaves of the century-old Jequitiba tree as if nature itself was celebrating that moment. Selina woke up early, even before the sun rose. Sitting on the porch of the house with a cup of tea in her hands, she watched the first golden rays illuminate the building that materialized both her father's dream and her husband's transformation. Raphael was still sleeping, a peaceful sleep that contrasted with the sleepless nights of worry that had been so frequent in the first months after the crisis. "You were right, Dad," she whispered into the wind, as if Aaron could hear her from somewhere. "True love really is a journey of transformation." When Raphael finally joined her on the porch, he was carrying a small package wrapped in handmade paper. "Happy 1-year anniversary," he said, handing over the gift with a soft kiss. Selina smiled in surprise. With all the hustle and bustle of the preparations for the inauguration, she had almost forgotten that that date marked exactly 1 year since her wedding day. "I thought you had forgotten too," he confessed, carefully unwrapping the package. Inside, the box was a delicate, handcrafted necklace with a small piece of carved wood hanging from a silver chain. Looking closer, Selina recognized the material. It was a fragment of the Jequitiba tree, transformed into a piece of art by skilled hands. "It's beautiful," she whispered, as Raphael placed it around her neck. "Gustavo helped me find a local craftsman who works with naturally fallen wood," Raphael explained. "I like to think that it represents our history, something that could have been just a lost fragment, transformed into something beautiful and meaningful." That simple gesture, so different from the expensive and impersonal gifts that Raphael had usually given in the past, moved Selina deeply. It was further proof of the authenticity of the transformation they had experienced together. The center began to come alive in the early Hours of the morning, volunteers arrived in small groups, bringing flowers, food for the community lunch, and musical instruments. Donna Zuleide led an army of women in the outdoor kitchen, preparing traditional regional dishes that would be served at the celebration. Gustavo, who had arrived the week before with his musician friends, was rehearsing the songs they would perform during the ceremony with a group of local youth. As the opening day approached, Selina noticed Raphael gradually becoming more tense. He was checking and rechecking details, adjusting chairs, testing equipment, behaviors reminiscent of the perfectionist executive she had known in São Paulo. "Is everything okay?" he asked, finding him alone in the main room where the official ceremony would take place in a few hours. "What if we fail, Selina?" he replied, revealing the insecurity he rarely showed. "What if we can't make the difference we promised? All these people have trusted us, invested their time, their resources, their hopes." Selina held his hands, making him look directly into her eyes. "Remember what your father-in-law wrote. The value is not only in the result, but in the journey, in the intention, in the courage to try. Even if not everything happens exactly as we planned, we have already transformed lives, starting with our own." Raphael took a deep breath, letting Selina's words calm his fears. It was amazing how she always managed to bring him back to center, to what really mattered, when anxiety threatened to overwhelm him. The inauguration ceremony began promptly at 10 in the morning. The center's central courtyard, designed as a natural amphitheater under the shade of trees, was packed. Residents of Paraty, local authorities, project partners, journalists, and most importantly, the young people who would be the first students, all gathered to witness the official birth of this transformative space. Beatrice, elegant in a navy blue dress, was the first to speak. With the authority of someone who had been a respected teacher in the city for decades, she contextualized the project as a natural continuation of the work that Aaron Allard had begun years earlier. "My husband believed that true education happens when we connect past and future, tradition and innovation, the local and the universal," she said, her clear voice echoing in the amphitheater. "This center is the embodiment of that dream, now in the hands of the new generation." When it was Raphael's turn to speak, many expected the former CEO's polished and measured speech. Instead, they witnessed something completely different. Abandoning his prepared notes, Raphael spoke directly from the heart, with a vulnerability that surprised even Selina. "A little over a year ago, I was a man who believed that value was measured by numbers in a bank account, by positions and titles, by power and influence." He began, looking directly at the people in front of him. "I was raised to see relationships as transactions, to be suspicious of generosity, to calculate the return on every action." Raphael paused, his gaze finding Selina's in the crowd. "Then I met an art teacher from Paraty, who saw beyond my armor, who believed in a version of me that I had forgotten about. And through her, I met a man I had never met in life, but who became my mentor, Aaron Allard." With genuine emotion, Raphael shared his journey of transformation, the crisis that stripped him of everything he considered important, the refuge he found in the Jequitiba house, the lessons learned through Aaron's letters, and most importantly, Selina's unconditional love that sustained him through the most difficult moments. "This center is not just an educational or social project," he concluded. "It is a testament to the possibility of starting over, to the human capacity for reinvention. Every young person who walks through these doors will not only be learning technical or artistic skills, but will be witnessing that it is always possible to change, to grow, to find a greater purpose." When Raphael stepped down from the small, makeshift stage, he was greeted by a warm embrace from Gustavo. The Mendonça brothers, who had long followed divergent paths, were now united in a common purpose that honored both the artistic sensibility of one and the entrepreneurial vision of the other. The most moving part of the ceremony, however, was when Selina revealed a surprise she had secretly prepared. With the help of former students and Beatrice, she had compiled testimonials from people whose lives had been touched by Aaron Allard over the years. Former students who became teachers inspired by his example, artists who found their creative voice through his encouragement, community, leaders who learned from him the value of working together. My father always said that we are like stones thrown into a pond. We never know how far our ripples will reach, Selina said, as testimonies were projected onto a makeshift screen. This center is just another stone thrown into that pond, and today we are just beginning to glimpse the ripples it will create. After the official ceremony, the celebration continued with a community lunch, musical performances, and demonstrations of the activities that would be offered at the center. Raphael circulated among the groups, no longer as the distant businessman observing everything from afar, but as someone genuinely connected with the people, listening to stories, sharing visions, building bonds. Late in the afternoon, when most of the guests had already left, Selina found Raphael sitting under the jequitibar tree, leafing through the notebook of visions for a possible future that they had discovered in the time capsule left by Aaron. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, sitting down beside him. "How extraordinary it is that we are here, realizing dreams your father recorded before you were even born," he replied, showing her a sketch Aaron had made decades earlier, a vision remarkably similar to the center they had just opened. "It's almost as if there's a larger plan connecting it all." Selina smiled, resting her head on her husband's shoulder. Dad believed that there are invisible threads connecting people, ideas, and moments in time, that nothing is by chance even when we can't immediately see the purpose. As they watched the sun begin to set, painting the parity sky with golden and pink hues, Raphael reflected on the incredible journey he had traveled. From a cold, calculating executive to a man who now found joy in building something meaningful. For others, the transformation had been profound and, at the same time, as natural as the growth of the jequitibar tree that sheltered them. Slow, steady, inevitable under the right conditions. That night, after everyone had left and the estate had returned to its usual silence, Raphael surprised Selina with yet another gift. It wasn't something material, but a revelation. "I found this among the digital files I managed to recover after the crisis," he said, showing her a document on his tablet. "It's research I began in secret a few months before I met you." Intrigued, Selina examined the document. It was a preliminary study on the feasibility of a technological educational project in areas far from large urban centers. "Were you already thinking about something like this before we even met?" she asked, genuinely surprised. Raphael nodded, an enigmatic smile on his lips. "For years I kept this idea buried, convincing myself that it was impractical, that it wouldn't bring the financial return that would justify the investment. But something inside me refused to let it go completely." "Why didn't you ever tell me about this before?" "Because I only recently understood the meaning," he replied, taking her hands in his. "You see, Selina, perhaps you were not the only one guided by something greater in this story. Perhaps I too was being prepared somehow for this moment, for this version of myself." That revelation brought a new dimension to the journey they had shared. It was not just the story of a man transformed by the love of a woman, but of two souls who, each in their own way, were being guided toward an encounter that would change not only their lives, but potentially the lives of generations to come. In time, the weeks following its opening, the center quickly became a hub of activity and innovation. Young people who had never touched a computer before were discovering worlds of possibilities through technology. Traditional artisans were finding ways to extend the reach of their work through digital platforms. Local musicians were recording and distributing their compositions, preserving and reinventing ancestral rhythms. Even more surprising was the interest that the project began to generate in other regions. Representatives from neighboring communities visited the center, seeking inspiration for similar initiatives. Journalists from national media outlets showed up to report on the project, fascinated by the story of the former executive who had left corporate life to dedicate himself to a social project in a small, historic city. On one of these visits, Raphael was approached by a representative of an important international foundation dedicated to innovative educational projects. "What you have built here is exactly the kind of initiative we seek to support," the man explained as they walked through the gardens of the center. "The combination of cutting-edge technology with appreciation of local culture, sustainability integrated into the design, a pedagogical approach that respects different forms of knowledge. It is a model that could be replicated in other communities. The possibility of expanding the center's impact, of taking that vision to other places, lit a new flame in Raphael's heart. It wasn't the former CEO's ambition to seek growth at any cost, but something deeper, a genuine desire to multiply the opportunities for transformation that he himself had experienced. That night, when he shared the conversation with Selina, he found in her the same cautious enthusiasm. "It would be amazing to be able to take this work to other communities," she agreed. "But we have to be careful not to lose the essence of what we have built here, the genuine connection with people, the respect for the natural rhythm of each place, the integration with the local culture." "I completely agree," Raphael replied, hugging her. "It's not about creating identical franchises, but about adapting the fundamental principles to different contexts, respecting the uniqueness of each community." The seed of that conversation germinated over the following months, turning into a larger project. With the support of the International Foundation and using the experience gained in Parity, Raphael and Selina began to develop a mentoring program for community leaders from different regions who wanted to implement similar centers in their localities. The Jequitiba House became not just a home, but a meeting place where people from many places came to seek inspiration and knowledge. Beatrice, who had initially been hesitant to get directly involved, discovered a new calling as a mentor to these visitors, sharing not only the lessons she had learned from Aaron, but her own wisdom accumulated over decades as an educator. One autumn afternoon, almost 2 years after moving to Parity, Selina found Raphael in his office at home, absorbed in reading a document that seemed to have had a profound impact on him. "What is it?" she asked, noticing his teary eyes. "A letter from Henry," Raphael replied, his voice choked with emotion. Henrique, the former business partner whose betrayal had precipitated the financial crisis that had transformed their lives, had not made any contact since the legal proceedings were closed. The arrival of a letter from him was surprising, to say the least. "What does he say?" Selina asked, sitting down next to her husband. "He's asking for forgiveness," Raphael explained, handing him the letter. "He says he's followed the work we're doing here from a distance, that he's read the reports, that he's talked to people who've visited the center, and that he's realized how wrong he was about me, about what really matters in life." The letter was a mix of confession, regret, and admiration. Henrique revealed that after the company's dissolution, he had faced his own dark valley. Not just legal consequences, but a deep existential void that had forced him to question all his choices. "He is asking for an opportunity to visit the Inki Center to see for himself what we have built," Raphael continued. "He is not asking for a place or a role, just the chance to witness something that he says is inspiring so many people." Selina watched her husband carefully, trying to gauge his feelings about this unexpected request. "And what do you think about this?" Raphael was silent for a few moments, looking out the window at the Jequitiba tree that had witnessed so many transformations. "I think that if this place is really about second chances and new beginnings, it would be hypocritical to deny that possibility to anyone, even someone who hurt me so deeply." The decision to invite Henrique to visit the center was not taken lightly. Raphael spoke at length with Selina, Gustavo, and even Beatrice, seeking perspectives that would help him process complex feelings of hurt, distrust, and, surprisingly, compassion. When Henry finally arrived on a rainy winter morning, the meeting was initially tense and uncomfortable. The two men who had been friends and partners for so long now regarded each other as strangers, separated not only by time and circumstance, but by fundamental choices that had shaped their paths in radically different ways. It was Selina who broke the ice, offering to show Henrique around the center. As they walked through the lively spaces, observing young people engaged in activities that blended technology and tradition, the initial tension gradually gave way to mutual curiosity. "I never imagined you would find this path, Raphael," Henrique commented, as they watched a programming class where teenagers were developing apps to promote local crafts. You were always so focused on metrics, on growth, on tangible achievements. I didn't imagine it either, Raphael replied, with a serene smile. I had to lose everything I valued to discover what really matters. That visit, which was supposed to last only a few hours, lasted for days. Enrique, visibly impacted by what he witnessed, asked permission to stay longer, to understand more deeply how the center works, to meet the people whose lives were being transformed. On his last night in Parati, during dinner on the veranda of the Jequitibar house, Enrique finally gathered the courage for a full confession, not only about the actions that had led to the company's crisis, but about the deep motivations behind them: envy, insecurity, a desperate desire to prove his worth in a world that seemed to value only success at any cost. I thought if I gained control of the company, I would finally feel fulfilled, he admitted with painful honesty. But even when it seemed like I had won, I had never felt so empty. Raphael listened in silence, recognizing in that confession echoes of his own inner demons, of the same insecurities he had faced on his journey of transformation. "What will you do now?" he asked when Henry finished speaking. "I don't know for sure," the former partner admitted, "but I know what I don't want to do anymore. Continue living a life without purpose, without meaning beyond the next material achievement." Before leaving, Enrique made an unexpected request to Raphael and Selena. He wanted to become a regular donor to the center, not to atone for guilt or rebuild its image, but because he genuinely believed in the work they were doing. "I don't need recognition or my name on a plaque," he explained. "I just want to know that in some way I'm contributing to something that really matters." That unexpected encounter with his past brought Raphael a sense of closure that he hadn't known he needed. The ability to look into the eyes of the man who had betrayed his trust and feel not hatred or resentment but compassionate understanding was perhaps the most concrete proof of his transformation. The night after Henry's departure, as they walked hand in hand through the estate beneath a starry sky, Selena reflected on the extraordinary journey they had traveled together. "When I accepted his marriage proposal, I had hoped that we could build something meaningful together," she said, pausing to look Raphael in the eye. "But I never imagined that our story would touch so many other lives, that it would become something much bigger than the two of us." Raphael caressed her face tenderly, marveling at the woman who had seen possibilities in him that even he himself could not see. "You've always believed in transformation, haven't you? From day one you saw beyond appearances, beyond the defenses I had built." Comment here. Which part moved you the most? I read all the comments. Every day I'm here with stories that are just ours. Activate the bell so you don't miss the next one. Coming back to the story. Tomorrow there will be more stories on the channel. A new story of strength and truth, and I hope to see you here. Comment here. Which part moved you the most? I read all the comments. Every day I'm here with stories that are just ours. Activate the bell so you don't miss the next one. Coming back to the story. Tomorrow there will be more stories on the channel. A new story of strength and truth. I hope to see you here.